Analysts tells XRP holders what they should expect in the next 7 to 8 days. But is the clock really ticking or just another fake out? Some pundits warn, don't get tricked by this, don't get caught. But if that's true, what exactly are we missing? Because behind the charts and the noise are indisputable XRP facts, signals of a market presence too strong to ignore. And then there's the bigger question, SWIFT and Ripple, frenemies or just foes? Could integration really be on the horizon, as even SEB's head of products has hinted? If XRP is truly the neutral liquidity bank for global value transfer, then what happens next might not just surprise holders, but the entire financial system. Analyst tells XRP holders what they should expect in next 7 to 8 days. One analyst is pointing to a very specific window, just 7 to 8 days before XRP makes its next big move. But should holders really trust such precision, or is this just the market's way of baiting impatience? The setup is clear on the chart. XRP is trapped in a descending triangle where each rally attempt gets capped lower, while the base of support around $2.70 keeps getting retested. This kind of pattern doesn't last forever. Eventually, it snaps. History tells us that when compression like this builds, the breakout that follows can be explosive. But here's the tricky part. Direction isn't guaranteed. A clean push above the descending line could flip momentum bullish and finally carry XRP back over $3. Yet a break below $2.70 would signal renewed weakness, potentially catching holders off guard. So the real question becomes, is this 7-8 day timeline a genuine signal of imminent movement, or just another setup where impatient traders get shaken out before the real move begins? Pundit to XRP holders, don't get tricked by this. Don't get caught. Not everyone is convinced that this tightening pattern is the green light bulls are waiting for. Some pundits are sounding the alarm. Don't get tricked by this. Don't get caught. Why? Because XRP has a history of faking out its own holders, sudden wicks above resistance, only to collapse back under the same level. Each false breakout traps traders, drains momentum, and resets the cycle. The concern is simple. If the market is still thin, if liquidity hasn't fully returned, then every sharp move risks being a trap rather than a trend. And with speculation around ETFs, global regulations, and liquidity corridors heating up, it's all too easy to mistake noise for signal. So here's the caution. Holders need to ask themselves, is this the beginning of sustained upside, or just another carefully timed shakeout designed to punish the impatient? Indisputable XRP facts backing its strong market presence. For all the doubts, there are facts about XRP that even the harshest critics can't dismiss. These aren't hype-driven narratives, they're hard data points that give XRP its edge. First, transaction efficiency. XRP consistently settles transactions in 3 to 5 seconds with near zero fees. That's not a promise or roadmap. It's live today, and institutions are already leveraging it. Second, corridor expansion. Ripple's network continues to grow in regions that matter for cross-border finance: Asia, the Middle East, Latin America. Each new payment corridor means more baseline transactional demand, less reliance on speculative hype. Third, liquidity resilience. Even during its years of legal suppression, XRP maintained one of the deepest liquidity pools among top crypto assets. That kind of stability under fire is why institutional desks still watch it closely. And finally, regulatory clarity. The legal cloud is thinning. Every incremental win for Ripple doesn't just boost confidence, it reduces the risk premium institutions once slapped onto XRP. Put together, these aren't just bullish arguments. They're the backbone of XRP's undeniable market presence. The foundation is already there. The question is whether the market is ready to reprice it. SWIFT and Ripple, XRP, frenemies or just foes? When it comes to global payments, there's no avoiding the question. Is Ripple positioning itself to replace SWIFT or to integrate with it? On the surface, they look like competitors. SWIFT is the legacy titan, handling the messaging backbone of international bank transfers for decades. Ripple, on the other hand, built XRP as a settlement layer designed to move value, not just messages. But here's the twist. These two might not be outright enemies. In fact, the future could look more like frenemies. Why? Because banks don't just throw away old infrastructure overnight. SWIFT has reach, Ripple has speed. Together, the pairing could fuse old rails with new liquidity. Still, there's tension. Ripple challenges SWIFT's inefficiencies head-on, and SWIFT's experiments with its own blockchain pilots signal it knows the threat is real. Which way this relationship tilts, rivalry or reluctant partnership, may be one of the most important variables in XRP's future valuation arc. SEB's head of products, Ripple XRP, sees a future integration with Swift. The conversation about Ripple versus Swift isn't just theory, it's being discussed at the highest levels of finance. Robert Pearson, head of products and business development at SEB, put forward a perspective that cuts through the noise. Ripple doesn't need to replace Swift, it may one day be integrated into it. At the Paris FinTech Forum, Pearson emphasized that Swift's governance, regulatory frameworks, and established infrastructure are unparalleled. But he also acknowledged that distributed ledger technology like Ripple's brings speed and efficiency that the old guard simply can't match. Instead of building a whole new system from scratch, the logical path could be weaving Ripple's settlement layer into Swift's existing pipes. This kind of integration would mean Ripple doesn't need to fight every bank individually for adoption. Instead, it could piggyback on Swift's vast global reach, creating a hybrid system where Ripple's technology powers instant settlement, while Swift maintains its trusted compliance and messaging dominance. The kicker? Pearson made it clear that this isn't imminent. Regulatory alignment, technological validation, and cautious steps will slow the process. But the fact that a high-ranking financial executive openly entertains this scenario signals one thing. Ripple has already earned a seat at the global payments table. XRP is the neutral liquidity bank in Sandesh writes. Some see XRP as just another crypto, but a growing number of analysts argue it's something much bigger, the neutral liquidity of the new financial system. Versan Aljara, co-founder of Black Swan Capitalist, laid out a framework where XRP isn't competing with gold or stablecoins. Instead, it works with them, each playing a distinct role. Gold, the timeless store of value that anchoring wealth and long-term security. Stablecoins, the short-term liquidity providers fueling fast-moving settlement corridors. XRP, the bridge, the neutral layer that connects fiat currencies, digital assets, and even gold itself, enabling seamless settlement across borders. In Aljara's words, XRP becomes the neutral liquidity bank, not tied to any single jurisdiction, but functioning as the connective tissue in international finance. It isn't about speculation, it's about architecture. The implication? Every time stablecoins provide liquidity, they indirectly support XRP by making those corridors more efficient. Every time value moves across borders, XRP's utility as the bridge currency grows. And with that utility comes pressure, upward pressure on XRP's price, driven not by hype, but by usage. This framework paints a future where XRP sits at the center of global settlement flows, supported by stablecoins, underpinned by gold, and integrated into the broader financial system. Not as an outsider, but as a structural necessity. The question isn't whether XRP has a role to play, it's how big that role will become. From looming triangle breakouts to whispers of Swift integration to its potential place as the neutral liquidity bank, the signals are stacking up. So what do you think? Is XRP simply consolidating before its next move, or are we on the verge of a structural shift in global finance? If you found this breakdown valuable, hit that like button, share this with fellow XRP holders, and subscribe so you don't miss the next update. And let me know in the comments, where do you see XRP heading in the next 7 to 8 days?